Donald Trump has no use for DEI. Donald Trump came out right away as soon as he took office, signed an executive order. We're getting rid of DEI. He is done with it. And as it relates to this horrible tragedy, horrible, just awful, right? Like in anytime something like this happens, I just can't stop thinking about the families. And it was a tough night last night as I was watching this news come in and hearing everything. But I will say this, it was very interesting. Donald Trump was all over it. He was asking the right questions, actually, like at midnight, saying, why the heck was the helicopter flying so low? What was going on? Why didn't they maneuver and get out of the way? And you had Sean Duffy right on the scene, went straight down there. This is our new transportation secretary. I mean, he had just been sworn in. You think Pete Buttigieg would have done that? Heck, remember when the train derailed? Where was Pete? Pete didn't show up for months. And Biden didn't show up. Like nobody gave any information. And instead, last night, you had this very transparent approach. You had Caroline Leavitt go right on Fox News, and as she was getting information in real time, she had just learned that the president had been briefed on it. She was telling the viewers that it was actually really remarkable to see. And then, of course, Donald Trump sending out a truth last night, asking the right questions, like why would this helicopter be flying so low? Like that doesn't make sense. And why didn't they try and get out of the way? What is going on? And he, of course, you had a situation where immediately CNN and others were trying to blame him, which is crazy. But nonetheless, he's frustrated, and part of what he wants to change is this diversity, equity, inclusion thing, because in his view, and by the way, I agree with this wholeheartedly, you know that, we need to get back to being a meritocracy where people are rewarded because they're actually good at the job. And so today he came out swinging really hard against DEI in the military, in the FAA, and anywhere else in government. I want you to hear it.
And then when I left office and Biden took over, he changed them back to lower than ever before. I put safety first. Obama, Biden, and the Democrats put policy first. And they put politics at a level that nobody's ever seen, because this was the lowest level. Their policy was horrible, and their politics was even worse. So as you know, last week, long before the crash, I signed an executive order restoring our highest standards for air traffic controllers and other important jobs throughout the country. So it was very interesting. About a week ago, almost upon entering office, I signed something last week that was an executive order, very powerful, on restoring the highest standards of air traffic controllers.
So he got heavily criticized for that today. It was like, how dare you bring this up? How dare you suggest that there was any issue with competency, whatever, it's too soon. And like, you know, in a transparent environment, obviously we're devastated. But you also want some answers, right? You want to understand why this happened. And so he did bring this issue up. He did criticize the last administration, specifically the former head of the Department of Transportation, the guy who couldn't show up when the train derailment happened. One Pete Buttigieg, he had some choice words for the former mayor out there in Indiana.
The FAA website shows that the agency's guidance on diversity hiring were last updated on March 23rd of 22. They wanted to make it even more so. And then I came in, and I assume maybe this is the reason. The FAA, which is overseen by Secretary Pete Buttigieg, a real winner. That guy's a real winner. Do you know how badly everything's run since he's run this Department of Transportation? He's a disaster. He was a disaster as a mayor. He ran his city into the ground, and he's a disaster now. He's just got a good line of bullshit. The Department of Transportation, his government agency charged with regulating civil aviation. Well, he runs it, 45,000 people, and he's run it right into the ground with his diversity.
So he's changing that. Wow, he was fired up. I mean, you heard it. We had to bleep it out, you know. Pete Buttigieg and his BS. He decided today he was going to appoint a 22-year veteran of the FAA to run the place. Listen to this.
They are working tirelessly to figure out exactly what happened. We will state certain opinions, however. I'm also immediately appointing an acting commissioner to the FAA, Christopher Rocheleau, a 22-year veteran of the agency, highly respected. Christopher, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
So he's got a new head of the FAA, or at least an interim head of the FAA. He says he's getting rid of DEI. The DEI is the problem, all caused by this wokeness. Oh, gosh, don't tell Whoopi that. Don't, right? Like she was just saying. Gosh, none of you guys, you wouldn't be anywhere if it wasn't for wokeness.
Oh. Yeah. I would like this young lady this is her first job, I would like her to do a little homework. Because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off.
This is Caroline Levitt, the wonderful Caroline Levitt, who happens to be from my home state of New Hampshire, young woman, young mother, out there working tirelessly. By the way, giving information very transparently late last night. I mean, wow, blowing everybody away. Didn't even need a notebook when she did her first press conference, just took questions and spoke directly to those reporters. Anyway, here is Whoopi really just going on and on about how much she dislikes her because, you know, she doesn't respect wokeness and DEI enough.
And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here. Oh, yeah. Let me explain something to you, because without that wokeness, you might not have that job. Yeah. Because women were not invited to that table. Women were not invited to many tables in this nation. The reason we fought and busted our behinds to make sure that you didn't have to worry about this. And now to hear you talk about it and to hear anybody talk about the wokeness was put in place for a reason, because black people couldn't get into colleges, because women could not get into the colleges they wanted to go to. This is all women. Yeah. See, this is not black, Asian women. This is all women. Women were not invited to this party. It was a man's world, and we busted our asses to make sure that this was a person's world. So please stop using that phrase to talk about, because you don't understand what you're saying. You're saying about yourself that, you know, hey, that's a terrible thing to be. It's not a terrible thing to be. That's why we fought. That's what we were fighting for, so that you could stand in that podium, so that Catherine Jean-Pierre could stand at that podium. So women of all kinds of colors and ilks, wherever they came from, whatever their belief system was, they had the opportunity to bust down that door.
Okay. The thing is, it's 2025. All right, so we're not living in that world anymore. Guess what? Women can do anything. Heck, they're doing it all. They're doing it all, Whoopi. All right, so you don't need to rely on DEI anymore. Don't you think that we ought to be actually thinking about getting back to actually having women or anyone else in positions because they deserve to be there? I mean, Pete Hegseth had something interesting to say on this, speaking on Fox News with Jesse Waters. I want to play you this clip because he's our new defense secretary, by the way, talking about how we should think about diversity and how that actually really isn't the strength. The strength is actually unity. Listen.
What's happening with DEI? How's that going at the Defense Department?
Well, DEI is not going well at the Defense Department because it's dead. We will, as the president said in his inaugural, we will be merit-based and colorblind, and that is the case at the Defense Department. DEI is going to be ripped out root and branch because we want everyone treated equally with high standards and held accountable with warfighting, lethality, and readiness front and center. We don't have time for emphasizing differences. Jesse, one of the dumbest phrases in military history is our diversity is our strength. Our diversity is not our strength. Our unity and our shared purpose is our strength. And the Pentagon is excited to get back to that core mission. It's happening rapidly. The services are responding, and those that don't want to respond can work somewhere else. So diversity, equity, inclusion will not be a part of the Defense Department, not a minute long.
All right. So that's where we are. I mean, think about it though. I mean, if you're an organization and you say, all right, we need to follow this DEI prescription. So we're going to go out and we're going to get everybody with the last name that begins with the letter D. And we're going to say, we're going to hire you and make you into something because your last name begins with the letter D. Well, obviously you're limiting your pool of the people that would really be talented in the job because you're only looking at the people with the last name that begins with the letter D. And so because it's so important to get these special people, all of a sudden you start overlooking things like deficiencies and maybe, the reality that they're not the best at that particular job. You're pretending that they're better than they are. You're doing all these things to bump them up within the organization instead of actually focusing on, wait a second, we just need the best person. Man, woman, black, white, purple. We just need the best person for the job. And that's all we care about. And isn't that truly what you want to be as a society? Isn't that what America is known for? Isn't that why people all over the world from all kinds of different backgrounds want to come here for the American dream so that they have a shot at achieving something in a society that believes in the power of the individual, believes in the power of creativity, and rewards hard work? This DEI stuff is actually the antithesis of all of that, but you can't say it. You just can't say it.